Good evening.
ठीक है।
Just wait, Mansi, एक second. Yeah, so welcome you all. Welcome for this Young Turk program. This program is to inspire our young Turk who are our future hero. This program is started by our president to encourage and inspire all our young Turks. So we are having this program alternate Friday at 8 p.m. where we can discuss different publication guidelines, everything related to embryology, clinical ART, and endoscopy. So you all are invited to volunteer for the presentations. Those who are presenting, they will be given special positions at the Fertivision. So let's start with this. We have expert with us, Dr. Ritu Jain. Dr. Ritu, she is the director, Vardhman Medicare IVF ICSI laparoscopy at Gurgaon, past president Gurgaon Society, founder secretary IFS Haryana, joint treasurer IFS web
You
editor.
can skip this. No, you can
Okay,
skip.
she
Let us
has
come to talk. Right.
delivered talks presentation in the local, state, and national conference, conducted live endoscopic workshop. So welcome, Dr. Ritu Jain. Next expert we have Mansi. Dr. Desh Deepak. So, Dr. Desh Deepak, he's the organizing secretary, West Zone, UA Foxy Conference 22, organizing chairperson, State Conference of Endoscopy, organizing chairperson, State Conference, Rajasthan 2017, ex-president, Kota Obs and Gynae Society 2017, 22, and 23. He has a special skill of endoscopy. He is pioneer of advanced endoscopy IVF in Kota region. So welcome, Dr. Desh Deepak. So now we have a brilliant speaker, Dr. Mansi Jain. She has done fellowship in reproductive medicine and surgery, consultant reproductive medicine, gynae endoscopic surgeon at KG IVF and laparoscopic center, Delhi, Indrapuram, and Faridabad. She is a co-convener for SIG endoscopy IFS. Currently, she had done fellowship in reproductive medicine from Singapore, fellowship in minimal invasive surgery from Max Hospital Saket, presented various national and international papers, keen academician and research with special interest in reproductive medicine and endoscopy. So welcome, Dr. Mansi.
Thank you so much, Madam, for the kind introduction. And on behalf of SIG Endoscopy, I would like to thank you and Pankaj, sir, for giving us this brilliant platform to showcase our work. So, we all know with the advent and expansion of IVF, fertility enhancing surgeries are no longer the mainstay or the first line of treatment. However, we have to agree that it is an indispensable modality and it is a crucial complementary tool when we talk about infertility management. So we can see the role of surgery in the present era is redefined. This is our 5-year data from our hospital, and you can see that the maximum crux of surgery are prior to IVF hysteroscopic corrections. However, the tubal correction nowadays is the minimum chunk. What has changed over the years? Well, we have very high frequency ultrasound probes and very high resolution probes, along with 3D, which has drastically changed our practice. So, a very good evening to all. And today I'll be discussing some really interesting fertility enhancing surgery videos it's a collection of multiple videos that I have selected. And so we start with the first case. So, well, this is a typical case of hysteroscopic myomectomy, which is often said to be one of the more complex hysteroscopic surgeries. But I would say if the patient selection is good, is adequate, and the surgical skill is precise, along with taking steps to minimize complications, then the safety profile of these surgeries can be definitely be better. So here we have entered the cavity. We can see there are two typical type 1 submucous myomas, and we proceed with hysteroscopic myomectomy with the help of a resectoscope. Now, these cases, typically, the patient selection, like I said, is very important. So there is this LASMAR classification that guides us towards better selection of these cases, as in should we go for hysteroscopy or laparoscopy. So we all know it includes the size of the fibroid, the topography, the extension of the base, the penetration, and involvement of the lateral walls. So typically when the score is very high, like if it's between 4 to 9, then we must consider alternatives, that is laparoscopy, for these fibroids. So we can see that we are doing hysteroscopic myomectomy with the help of a resectoscope. Now, the basic principles of using a resectoscope, couple of points that we have to remember. First is that the tip of the instrument, the loop of the resectoscope should always be under vision. Let's move towards a more... Am I audible?
Very well audible.
Yeah, okay. So I'll switch over to the next video. Well, this is typically a very large myoma. So here you can see this definitely, I would say, is a more challenging situation. Why? Because it's obscuring most of the cavity. And these cases, it's very difficult to see the extent of the myoma. But again, if you keep the basic principles of myomectomy in mind, like the loop, like I said, should be under vision. Then you start from the tip of the fibroid and not from the base. Otherwise, you're going to dislodge it and it's going to become very difficult to get a good hold of it. Another important thing is that the direction of the loop is very important. Once you start, it has to be towards you, and try and take a big chunk, and continuous activation of the loop is important. If you stop in the middle, there'll be multiple small fragments, and again, it will be very difficult to catch hold of all the small pieces. Now, why we are worried about these kind of big myomas are because we know that they're associated with a lot of complications. Like firstly, it's going to take a lot of time, and we are using glycine. So there is a risk of fluid overload. So it's very important that at all point of time during the surgery, one designated person has to be there who's just looking at the fluid deficit. And at any point of time, if the fluid deficit exceeds 1 liter, then that is your cue. You have to stop the procedure. So these patients require a lot of prior counseling, especially in such big myomas, that there may be a need for a second surgery to get off the whole thing. So it might be a wise option to divide it into two. Coming on to the third video is again a myomectomy, but with a slightly different approach. So this is the flap method for myomectomy, and this is typically done when the myoma is very small. So here you can see there is a small slight bulge in the anterior wall, and this is a very small fibroid. So to prevent major disruption of the endometrium, what we can do is with the help of scissors, you can just make a circumferential flap in the endometrium. Now, the trick and the right way to do is to just press the scissors right up to the anterior wall, and then you make a flap, and the fibroid is scooped out. So you will see we are using a unipolar hook to scoop out the fibroid. So in this way, you are preserving most of the endometrium. And what happens is the moment the fibroid is taken out and when the pressure reduces in the cavity, the flap falls back on the endometrium. So this is one of the ways to cause minimum damage to the endometrium. Uh, in cases like the large myoma that I had shown, we are also concerned about the big raw area which will be formed after myomectomy, and post-op adhesion formation is very important. So in our infertility practice, typically we are using long duration of estradiol valerate for adhesion prevention. And this may, we can give it up to almost 6 to 8 weeks for such a big fibroid. The problem arises when there are multiple, the same situation is complicated by either multiple fibroids, or especially when the fibroids are opposing each other, that is on the anterior and the posterior wall. So the chances of adhesion are even more. So these are the cases where, again, you may consider posting the patient twice for surgery. But of course, it has to be done with a thorough counseling. So the next case that we have here, again, this is a very interesting case. This is one of the rare anomalies. So this is a complete oblique septum, which is a very rare entity, also known as Robertson uterus. So this patient came to us. I'm going to pause the video here for a second. So this patient, when she came to us, this was really long time back, somewhere around 2015. So this patient came to us with an MRI report, and the MRI report said that she had a bicornuate uterus with hematometra on one side and left side hydrosalpinx. So that time we did not have 3D, and a 2D ultrasound was done, and somewhat our findings were also similar. And this is what we saw. This is the picture in hysteroscopy. So I'll take it down. I'll take it back a little bit. You can see that it's almost like a unicornuate cavity. It's like a tubular cavity, and the other side is not seen. So at this point of time, laparoscopy was done, and we saw it was a single uterus. So this gave us the suspicion of a septum. And you can see this is like an oblique septum. So in such a case, the major challenge was where to start the septum resection. So a point midway between the septum was chosen, and we started with the help of a unipolar hook. We started doing the septum resection. Now, this is one of the indications, one of the few selective indications, especially in reproductive surgeries, where the use of energy of current is justifiable, because you can see this is a very thick wall septum. Again, a couple of things that one needs to remember while using current and especially unipolar hook. The tip of the hook should always be under vision. The direction again is important. You have to move towards the surgeon and not the other way. Otherwise, you'll cause a perforation. Then it is always advisable to start from the center, maintain the orientation. And again, the movement has to be in a very controlled manner and not short, jerky movements. So you can see there was a little bit of blood also escaping out once you've made that hole in that septum, and it's a thick wall septum, and you will be able to appreciate. I'm sorry, this is a kind of an old video, but I really wanted to show this here because this is one of the rare things you usually do not encounter. So here you can see on the left lateral wall, the thick septal wall is still there, and this is the one that is at the center. So I'm going to quickly skip to the end of the video. When we talk of septum resection, well, the end point is when you're able to see both the ostia in line and you're able to see the crisscross arrangement of myometrial fibers. So that is your cue to stop. And the final aim is obviously to expand the cavity as much as possible. And yes, this is the laparoscopy picture. And you can see there is a slight dimple in the at the fundus, which gave us the idea that this probably is a septum. Moving on to the next case. So this is something we all see in our practice day in and day out. This is a typical case of Asherman syndrome, grade 3 Asherman cavity, and you can see the multiple adhesions. The uterine cavity is studded with adhesions extending from the anterior wall right up to the posterior wall in such a way that the cavity is being divided into, multiple chambers. So now this particular patient had a very interesting case history. She was a young 25-year-old female, and she had received 2 cycles of ovulation induction, and she had come to us with this report, and she wanted to opt for IVF because the ovulation induction did not work, and she was desperate now to get pregnant. So we did a basic 2D scan, and the cavity, we could see evidence of intrauterine adhesion. So she was posted up for hysteroscopy. A major correction was done, extensive adhesiolysis was done, and this should be the aim in such cases, that you take care of all the adhesions, proper visualization of the cavity, and also very important to take note of features like the proliferation and the vascularity, because these are signs of endometritis as well. So when we talk of hysteroscopic adhesiolysis, again, together, you should be having a whole panoramic view. Start from the center, gradually move laterally, and as you go through, if you're in the right plane and as the cavity distends, it starts to present itself gradually. So again, the aim is you stop where both the ostia are visible in the same line. This patient, after the surgery, was again posted for IUI, and she conceived in the second cycle of IUI post-correction. Also, it's very important, again, to prevent post-op adhesion formation in such cases. And for such a case, it may last up to 6 to 8 weeks. The next video I would like to show now, this is something which is everybody's nightmare, both the patient and the treating doctors, because this is a typical case of grade 4 severe endometritis. You can see this is just before we enter into the internal os, and there is a thick band of adhesion. So when you post such a patient for hysteroscopic correction, it's very important to counsel the patient about the prognosis. So no matter, even if you're doing a very good surgery, the final picture, the prognosis for these patients isn't very flowery. So again, the principles of hysteroscopic resection remain the same. But when we are operating lower down in the cavity, it is a bit challenging because of the distension may not be that proper. So again, you have to be very patient, follow the same principles, maintain the orientation, and gradually move forward. So now we've gotten rid of this band of adhesion, and we are going to enter the cavity. Just skip it a little. And you can see now we are going inside the cavity, but it's typically just a tubular structure. It's almost like a blind sac. So at this point of time, I was really confused if I've made a false passage. So for such surgeries, the use or intraoperative use of ultrasound can be quite helpful. And I did the intra-op ultrasound, trans-abdominal ultrasound, and I saw that I was at the right place. There were patches of endometrium. However, I think you will be able to appreciate the endometrium here. There is minimal proliferation, only patchy proliferation is seen. And the major challenge in these cases is because the usual landmarks that are usually there, that is the 2 ostia to guide you, are not there in such a case because both the ostia are completely obscured. So where to start the dissection is the major challenge. So again, for such a case, I usually use ultrasound guidance. And so there was a point on this left lateral wall which did look like there was a small pocket, and this is where you start. And once you're in the right plane, again, you gradually move laterally from the center in small control nicks, no big cuts, otherwise you might perforate. And see, you will be able to appreciate here that once we are in the right plane, the cavity starts presenting itself. use of laparoscopy also might be a good idea. So I will show a similar case of grade 4 endometritis next. So again, you can see this is grade 4 endometritis. The cavity looks really bad. The anterior and the posterior wall are completely plastered to each other. However, the proliferation here is slightly better. And on the anterior walls, there is this slight dimple, which is looks like that is just a band of adhesion. And that is where we started our dissection, gradually moving laterally. Now, what we are concerned about in these cases is because maximum correction has to be done. Once you're posting such a patient, you have to try to reclaim as much of the cavity as possible, and that is going to take a lot of time. So again, we are really concerned about fluid overload in such a patient. The other dreaded complication, of course, is perforation, for which we use intraop, we can use ultrasound, or we can even take the help of laparoscopy. These patients are typically, again, good candidates for a second look hysteroscopy, because many times, even after doing maximum correction, there are chances of adhesion formation. So again, the patients have to be counseled prior only that they might require a second look surgery somewhere in the future. Coming on to the next case, where we use laparoscopy. So again, when we talk about fertility enhancing surgery, patient selection is very important. You can see we are in the pelvic cavity. So this patient had loculated spill on HSG, and she was a young patient with no other factor preventing fertility. So we gave her the option of hysterolaparoscopy with tubal correction. So the aim here is, of course, to restore the tubo-ovarian relationship. And you can see there were multiple bands of adhesion. So you have to proceed with adhesiolisis. You can see the ovary and the lateral part of the tube is completely adherent, and the bowel is also adherent to the ovary. So again, you have to be very patient. The trick here, especially when you're operating near the bowel, is to provide good amount of traction and counter traction. And when we're dissecting near the bowel, always we have to use sharp dissection. Like I said, the aim is to free the tube, and we have to do extensive adhesiolisis here. And a good knowledge of the normal anatomy, of course, is very important. You can see that there is a lot of fluid in the POD and around the tubes also. When we are handling the tubes, again, it's very important that proper tissue handling has to be there. So you have to be very careful where you're holding the tube and how and what instruments. No traumatic instrument should ever be used near the tube. And definitely energy sources are avoided when you're operating so close to the bowel. So I skipped it a little. Now we've finally freed the tube, and you will be able to appreciate the fimbria, which looks really healthy. So again, in these kind of patients, very important to establish the patency of the tubes, and so chromoperturbation is to be done. And I'm going to skip it a little bit. So this is the final picture. The tubes were patent. Only thing, there were perifimbral adhesions, and the tubo-ovarian relationship was altered because of this. Now, when we talk of fertility enhancing surgeries, I think my talk will not be complete if I don't talk about endometriosis here. So I'm going to be showing a typical case of grade 4 severe endometriosis. Just need to play my video.
You can take water, Mansi.
Yes, ma'am. My video is not playing. Yes. So surgery in endometriosis now, and when we talk about grade 4 endometriosis, grade 3 endometriosis, a lot of pre-planning has to go into it. You can see we've entered in the abdominal cavity, and right from the starting, it's started even to see the pelvic cavity. There are a lot of adhesions. The omentum is plastered on the anterior abdominal wall. So we don't have much of an option. We have to do a thorough adhesiolisis. Again, the key is proper traction, counter traction. Now, this is a very old video. So we used to use scissors, and we used to use bipolar and then take it out and then use scissors. But now we are blessed with good instruments. So now we are having bipolar along with cutting. So that definitely saves a lot of time. So correct selection of instruments also is very important. We have finally entered the pelvic cavity. You can see there is a big endometrium on the left side, and it's completely adherent to the bowel there. The uterus, the mobility of the uterus is restricted because of these adhesions, which are almost pulling the uterus backwards. The left side tube is not visible, and the bowel is adherent on the endometrioma on the posterior surface of uterus and in the POD. So when we talk about surgery in endometriosis, the key, because these patients, our aim is to enhance their fertility. So patient selection is extremely important. A couple of factors that are important to give you a suitable outcome is the age of the patient, the duration of infertility, if she's having any other factors like male factor or adenomyosis or endometrial factor. So you don't post such a patient for endometriosis surgery and prefer other alternatives. And the most important is the ovarian reserve. This was a young patient who had not received any treatment for endometriosis. So we counseled her, and her reserve was good. So this endometriosis surgery was planned for her. Now, when we take up a patient for endometriosis surgery, we have to be absolutely clear about what we are trying to achieve. So the aim of the surgery should be clear. Most importantly, the first thing is maximum correction and reduction of endometriosis should be the aim. You have to take out as much of the disease as possible. The second thing is to restore the normal tubo-ovarian relationship, to give her the benefit of surgery, and so that she can try for simpler means or maybe natural conception, which we don't really prefer. We prefer posting such a case for IUI at least. And thirdly, and the most important one, is to minimize the complications, do minimum damage. So that should be the aim of the surgery. Now here you can see the bowel and the omentum is densely adherent to the ovarian tissue. So we are just trying to, before we actually proceed with cystectomy, we are trying to free the ovary as much as possible. Now this is something that may happen, that you inadvertently rupture the endometrioma, because you see it's stuck from all the sides. So, but I don't think you need to worry about this too much. You can simply, irrigate and suction it. And again, we are operating so close to the bowel. You have to be very careful. Sharp dissection, good counter traction. And of course, in these kind of surgery, cystectomy is the preferred choice and not fulguration and drainage, because it reduces the chance of recurrence. So I'm going to show you that in this case, eventually, because we were trying to separate the bowel. But at some point of time, we had to let go of little bit of the normal tissue as well. So we decided to chop off little bit of normal tissue, and that's why these patients prior to surgery, they have to be counseled. Even in best of hands, there are chances that there will be a decrease in the ovarian reserve post-surgery, and the chances of recurrence of the disease, because that is the nature of endometriosis. So is always there. So that is why, according to the ESHRE guidelines, also we do not prefer to leave these patients for spontaneous conception because the chances of recurrence are very high. So, when we talk about cystectomy, when we talk about the procedure, it's not very difficult. Once you're in the right plane, you just need to catch hold of the cyst wall and the healthy tissue. And the trick is to do the stripping method, that is holding both and pulling it at 90-degree angle to each other. And once you're in the right plane, you'll see that it very beautifully just comes off together. This is one of the challenging cases because ovary is stuck to the bowel at one point. So see, that is how it looks like. And then you just take care of the hemostasis, surface cautery. Again, another important thing when we're doing endometriosis surgery is have a thorough inspection of the whole pelvic cavity. Look for those endometriotic lesions, and they should ideally be fulgurated. All endometriotic lesions should be fulgurated. So this almost brings me to the end of this video and my presentation. So in the end, I would just like to conclude by saying that practice, experience, and precision is the key for any surgery. And when we specifically talk about fertility enhancing surgeries, the proper selection of patients is crucial to give you a good result. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mansi. Next slide.
Rahul, you'll have to put up that
2 slides.
the registration slide, please.
Fertilization.
I'll just stop sharing so you can put up the slide.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the excellent presentation and wonderful collection of cases. With this, I invite all of you for the Fertivision in Delhi only 12, 13, 14 December at Leela Ambience. We are going to have 17 workshop, paper presentation, quiz, gala, cultural dinner, prizes, lots and lots of prizes, panels. So those who are still not registered, please register. Last date is the 21st September. Next slide. Himanshu.
Ma'am,
Next.
I have this one only, ma'am.
Okay, okay. And we are having lots of prizes. So next slide. I think Mansi is there.
Himanshu,
Regarding
what
Achiever
slide?
Awards, those who have not applied, I am putting the link and slide everything in the group only, our Young Tech group. So all the brilliants who are interested in the academics and everyone, please apply for the Achiever Awards. We are having lots of Achiever Awards in the Fertivision, so you can apply on the IFS Fertility Delhi. So we have given the mail ID also.
Hello.
Hello.
Madam, may I ask something or share something?
Yes, sir, please. So we
There was
have
very
expert
nice
with us.
video
Yeah,
presented
excellent
by
collection.
Mansi, but I want to share one or two suggestions in cases of the submucous myomectomy. We can use the saline-based separation at the base of the myoma to reduce the fluid overload. I have some experience of doing large myoma, 3 to 4 cases, where what I do, take the ovum pickup needle and then I go at the base of the myoma and then infiltrate the separation with saline, and after that then I start doing the myomectomy in piecemeal fashion. It will reduce the fluid overload, fluid absorption. One thing, cases of the myoma. And then second, in cases of the this robot uterus, I have also seen three cases. So it depends upon the type of the robot uterus. There are 3 type of the robot uterus. So in some cases we can do laparoscopic approach also, where there is less filled distension of the that cavity. So robot uterus sometimes also confused with the ACUM also in some cases. ACUM, especially cavity
Excellent.
uterine
Yes,
masses.
yes. Yes.
So always keep the diagnosis of the ACUM also in cases of the Robert uterus. Then third case of in cases of the endometriosis. So there are defined steps of the endometriosis nowadays. First do the sigmoid radiolysis. In cases of the grade 4 endometriosis, always identify the ureter also before jumping to the ovary, because when we jump to the ovary directly, then always the endometrioma gets ruptured and it will spoil your field. So in cases of the severe endometriosis, always try to identify both sides of the ureter and then jump to the ovarian pathology. That is my suggestion. So there are 7 steps of the grade 4 endometriosis. First step, the sigmoid mobilization. Second step, identification both sides of the ureter. Then always approach the medial pararectal space also in cases of if there is rectum or bowel involvement. So your retroperitoneal anatomy should also be very good whenever you are attempting any case of the grade 4 endometriosis.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Deep. And which diagnostic modality you are using for the congenital anomaly? You are preferring MRI or 3D scan? Dr. Mansi?
So, ma'am, we are greatly relying on 3D ultrasound these days.
Yes.
Definitely.
So,
The
but
preference is 3D.
MRI in very selective cases when there is a doubt.
Yeah, mostly we get information with the 3D scan.
3D ultrasound.
One
yes, ma'am.
question by the participant also. She's Dr. Sini. What precautions to be taken after hysteroscopic adhesolysis? Any role of PRP?
So yes, what we are concerned about extensive adhesiolysis post hysteroscopy are reformation of adhesions. So, well, the evidence is not very clear and in support of any particular modality. So people are using IUCDs are being used, and the Foley's catheter is used. And but we, as this has been our practice being infertility specialists, so we prefer using estradiol valerate, like I said, and it is to be given for a prolonged period, so at least for 6 to 8 weeks for such a severe case. And these days in UK especially, because we had a webinar and we had inputs from our faculty from UK, so they are using hyaluronic acid for adhesion prevention. But the evidence is still controversial. The evidence does not say which one is better. So it is more individualized. Now, when we talk of PRP, well, I would like to say here, definitely PRP has some role, but it is definitely not the Rambam that it is being projected as. So PRP, we need a lot of evidence and we need a lot of good studies, especially for standardization. Like everybody is doing PRP, but there is no standardization. What are the right indications, when it is to be used, and how it is to be prepared? So definitely more research into it, but you need to individualize the cases. And in thin endometrium, it definitely does work, but it does not do wonders like it's projected to be.
Hyaluronic is not available also, right, in
It's
India.
not available in
So
India, I
that's a
think,
good
ma'am.
reference for that, for hyaluronic, that it has a good result. And what about PRP for Asherman? Are you doing routinely after Asherman
No,
PRP?
ma'am, not routinely. We are not doing it routinely. It's just we are individualizing the patients. For
What,
thin endometrium, yes, we've seen it does, it does help.
Dr. Deshdeepak, what are your view about PRP after adhesolysis?
Madam, I have used in few cases, 5 to 6 cases, and I got the result also in 1 or 2 cases. But what I think that good adhesolysis is very important before using the PRP. Your hysteroscopy adhesolysis plays a very important role, and there is always controversy also between the PRP and stem cells. The
You are
people who
putting
are using the
catheter
stem cells,
routinely.
they are saying the stem cells is better, but
Yeah, definitely.
it is not done in remote areas because
Routinely, you are using catheter after Asherman, severe grade 4
I am
Asherman?
using the catheter.
For how many days? 5 to 7 days, or how many days?
In some cases, I used for 21 days also in severe.
21 days.
But I got the result in few cases 7 days. There is one Asherman syndrome after the DNC. So I did in that case 3 times hysteroscopy, madam.
Oh,
Ultimately, the
okay.
endometrium I got. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
severe case
Sometimes
of
we
it.
has to do 2 times or
Uh,
3. And Dr. Mansi, what about you? You routinely using Foley's catheter and for how many?
Ma'am, we've never used Foley's. We
but
typically
there
go
is
with
some, there is one
Invisalign.
catheter by Cook that is triangular in shape and very that will fit in the uterine cavity. In one of the conference, doctor, one of the doctor is telling the company, but we
Yeah,
are just cutting the tip of the that Foley's bulb before
Foley's
keeping
one.
inside the
Yeah,
uterine cavity, so it will
yeah,
fit inside the uterine cavity very well.
very well.
So,
And
ma'am,
some people
our
use copper T after removing copper also. Yeah.
So, ma'am, our basic idea is that these patients, mostly the infertility patients, have to be taken up for probably IVF after correction. So, we need to assess the endometrium after the correction is done. So, that way, for endometrial evaluation, Estradiol serves as a good means to do it. So, that is our, practice of post-op
And
disability.
Dr. Deshdeepak, are you using Foley's and all after septum? If it's a deep septum, then also you are using or not only estrogen progesterone?
Mainly in cases of thin septum, we use only
Nothing.
estrogen progesterone.
Thick
But where there
septum.
is a very thick septa, and there is
Hmm.
chances of even intrauterine adhesions after this, and there is bleeding also after doing the septal resection. In such cases, we can use the Foley's catheter. In few cases, it
Yeah.
depends upon the. Suppose we are using only scissor to cut the septa, that is very thick septa. So there sometimes there is some bleeding also.
Yeah,
Most
Dr.
cases also.
Ritujan, what
Yeah,
is your so what are your view about the Foley's after Eshelman, after septum, thick septum? So what is your routine?
Dr. Renu, we are not using any
Foley.
such device or Foley's catheter. I also prefer Estradiol Valerate or hemi-acetate, and that
Hemihydrate.
too for hemihydrate for 2 to 3 months or 6 to 12 weeks, depending upon how the endometrium is developing. And after intrauterine adhesiolysis, depending upon like if it is grade 3 or grade 4, as Dr. Deepak and Mansi has said, we do need relook hysteroscopy. And these are sometimes very thick bands. They are very thick bands. But they may not even, go away with scissors, or you might need to use cautery. So in these cases, I also like to put Follies, but not in septum cases. And in intrauterine adhesions, when it is grade 3 or grade 4, sometimes we need a relook, because even after giving everything, estrogen, they may reform. When you see on
Yeah.
3D ultrasound, you again see that thick band is coming. Although after first hysteroscopy, you've done a complete job. And regarding that fibroid, Dr. Deepak was mentioning when it is large, injecting saline at the base. That is a good idea, Dr. Deepak, but why don't we do it under saline only? I do it under bipolar saline system,
Yeah.
and it works very well.
Madam, this concept was mainly propagated by my friend Dr. Sandesh Kare. Basically, when you inject the saline-based separation, there is vasoconstriction. So once there is a vasoconstriction, like we are doing in myomectomy also, and it will also give the good plane also. So what happen? It will reduce the fluid absorption basically, and your the field of vision is also very clear and crystal because there is no minor vessels मतलब वो बीच में they will not come, so your field of vision will be also very nice. Recently I used in many cases and I'm getting the good
Okay,
Okay,
that
result.
so
And
five
see,
sometimes
centimeter, 5 centimeter or more.
sometimes we counsel the patient that we can do the in second sitting also if the myoma is more than it depends upon the that last mark
Size.
classification also if where is the
Hmm.
location and everything, but even in case of the we can say 0 1 and 2, so I have updated FIGO 2 also. 0 is very easy because we are working within the cavity also, but challenging case is the 1 and 2, basically 2. So
2. Yeah,
2 is more
definitely.
challenging. 3 we
More
can
challenge.
do by laparoscope also. And if the size is more than 5 centimeter, then I use the laparoscopy even cases of some mucous myoma. If the it is mainly 1/3 in the myometrium also. So it depends upon your choice also. But you can use luprite depot also. Suppose you
Yeah,
want to do
definitely.
hysteroscopically also, then you can do pre-operatively. You can use the luprite depot also. So it will also prevent the fluid absorption. That is one concept.
For type
Yeah.
2 fibroid, it's better if you keep TVS ultrasound in the OT only, because that
Yes,
will help to
yes.
delineate
Big,
all this.
yeah, distributor.
And for such a
Another
large fibroid, better if we use TrueClear, if we are having facility for
Yeah,
TrueClear. So
True,
it's a minimum time we can remove with this big fibroid in 10-15 minutes only.
But with
And no
TrueClear, it is
endometrial
good with
damage.
0 and 1, not with 2. And Mansi,
Not
you
with those
presented.
big fibroids, for the big like
Hmm.
5 centimeter, 4 centimeter, like Dr. Dej Deepak is saying. For that
Ma-
fibroids, yeah,
You presented good cases, Mansi. And one more
very good.
thing I want to share with my this thing, that in large myoma, sometimes it is difficult when, especially when it is at fundus or near cornu, to go beyond and come, like, from fundo to cervical region. So in that case, if you have assessed the cavity properly and you have transvaginal scan in the OT or lab guided, we can do it by reverse technique also, because it is so easy to separate rather than shaving the whole thing and then scooping.
yes.
Going by reverse technique from cervicofundal, it becomes much easier sometimes.
Very
Yeah.
good suggestion. Right.
One question by Dr. Sini. Patient not getting periods after giving estrogen progesterone. What to do?
Hysteroscopy.
Adhesiolisis and
No,
hysteroscopy at
they
this
have
point.
done adhesiolisis. She says still not getting. So definitely
So
we can
might be
do
the
that.
cavity is stuck up again, and
Yeah.
then we have to do relook. And then these are the cases in which we should put some intrauterine device, maybe the Foley's or maybe
And
the.
relook should also not be delayed. It should be done around 4 weeks. Otherwise, it sometimes become dense. So what time you plan, Dr. Ritu, relook hysteroscopy?
I plan after 8 weeks. If after 8 weeks there is no response, but sometimes there are cases in which it is not at all possible to open up the cavity. I had a patient in which we tried once, we opened, we said everything is okay. And then we were preparing her for IVF. Meanwhile, she conceived on her own with ectopic pregnancy. But
Yeah.
then we thought that she started bleeding. Okay, someday we will be able to do it. We planned again her hysteroscopy, and we could never open her cavity. We never know how that sperm reached the tube, and we could never. That patient is amenorrheic since then. Even now, she is amenorrheic. It is almost 10, 12 years, though her hormonal profile is absolutely fine. So
And
sometimes you meet failures like anything.
yeah.
We
Dr. Desh Deepak, one you would like to do re-hysteroscopy?
Madam, it depends upon also the sonographic finding. In all cases, after 1.5 months, we do
Yeah.
transvaginal
Right.
sonography, 3D sonography. Then I will see adhesions, appears in the sonography. So then I counsel the patient, you need the relook hysteroscopy also.
And Dr. Mansi, you, what is your view about re-hysteroscopy when
So
you plan?
yes, ma'am. So same. So we evaluate the endometrium post adhesiolysis. If the endometrium is going fine and we're getting the desired ET, then nothing has to be done. But these cases typically grade 4, they usually require. So we find some evidence on ultrasound, either 2D or 3D, and then we round roughly around 1.5 months we post these patients for a relook.
and one very important point I thought I should make a mention, that whenever we are going towards the lateral wall, say in adhesiolisis, or whenever we are going towards the fundus, it is better to make small nips if it is scissor, and if it is this thing Collins life, to move the instrument without energy source, because sometimes you can end up with any perforation, especially in severe cases or when the visibility beyond is not very confirmatory. We can simply do blind this thing, moving the instrument blind, and it should be small nips. As Mansi said, that moving from medial to lateral is good, but small nips is very important, and blind, no blind without cautery.
Yeah, so one more question by Dr. Rekha. Is there any concession in registration for those who have presented in Young Turk Journal Club? You just let us know, Dr. Rekha. You all are who are presented are very, very important. And let us know anything you need. We will definitely do something for you people. So with this, we thanks both the expert, Dr. Desh Deepak and Dr. Ritu Jain. An excellent session by Dr. Mansi. So invite rest all also for the embryology clinical endoscopy where you want. Thank you very much. Any other thing if you want any other input?
Ritu Madam,
Very
namaste.
good evening, Dr. Desh Deepak. We have learned together, Dr. Desh Deepak and
Yes,
myself.
we are
And
initially together. Na? Initially,
You
yeah.
are from Kota. You are from Kota, na?
Yes, madam.
Rajasthan.
We were in Germany, we were in the same batch.
Okay.
Yesterday we
And
are together.
yesterday we have been together. And
Alhamdulillah.
Dr. Mansi, I have learned history